Here's another video about racks on a Noritsu 39 series machine. This is the bleach rack, rack number 4. And rack number 5 is the one that we've been having lots of trouble with, and it had a broken shaft attachment over here. And we've glued that back together successfully after a couple failed attempts, and now I'm just inspecting this rack, the one before it, to make sure it's okay. I could hear a little bit of a clicking sound while the processor was running, so I'm a little suspicious, and I've already found something wrong with it. But just to go over what a rack, things you might want to inspect, I've really never had very much trouble below the water line, although I do check the springs going down along the side to make sure they're all there. I've never actually seen a problem with one of those springs there on both sides. I've never had a problem. Actually, once I had a problem with this rubber thing down at the bottom. It split. I've seen that before. Most of the trouble with the rack is up at the top. This little gray gear gets loose and worn and you have to replace it. I've also had to replace this that's on the main drive. But right now, just looking at this, there was a bunch of buildup over here of the dried out bleach, but just turning this, you can see how the whole thing's shifting. That same screw back there, the attachment is broken off again, same as the other rack. So hopefully we can epoxy it back on and order a new one. The half of the rack that I thought I got from Noritsu to repair the other rack was the wrong piece. They didn't have it in stock. It's coming from Japan now. Not sure when it's going to be here. So here is the broken off attachment, and that's where it goes. When I glued the other one unsuccessfully, I think what happened is that, see how you can see all the way through it? When I put this down into the epoxy went up into this hole, and then when I went to screw in the screw, it hit the epoxy in the hole, and that forced it to pop off somehow, something like that. So when I did it the third time, I put the screw into this with a little bit of grease on the very end of it that was sticking out, so that when I put it in there, the epoxy wouldn't go up into this hole, the shaft. And then as soon as it's set up, I gently unscrewed the screw. So we'll try that again. Looking at the rack a little bit more, there's these weird bumps in this rubber thing down at the bottom. Not sure what causes that. Interesting. It's not on the whole thing, it's like it's only on part of it. So in order to work on this and glue that back together, I'm going to take out some of this stuff. This gear here is held down by a C-clip here, and then there's a pin that you push down and it will drop out through the bottom eventually. May need to tap it with something. There's a pin. It's got a flat spot on one part, and then it just has the slot for the C-clip on one end, so it comes up through the bottom like that. Then this gear comes out, and this is a gear that we replace somewhat regularly. Then to get this main drive gear out, it has a metal C-clip here, and I don't know if this is the best way to do it, but this is what I do. There's a little flat spot on the drive shaft, and I just use a screwdriver to pry it loose. And then when I put it back on, I end up using needle nose pliers to sort of clamp it back, because I've sort of stretched it out now. Once you take that off, this just slides off, and now I've got a better area to work on. This gear that's on the bottom will just pop off of this, so if you need to replace it, it's pretty easy. So here's the final glue up with the epoxy. It's still setting up, but I think it looks pretty good. I have a zip tie on the top of it. You can see it's got a crack going down the side, and hopefully that'll keep the screw from splitting it further. I did wrap some string around it with the epoxy to try and make it stronger, sort of like a fiberglass type thing.